Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie, and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. That's right, folks. Here's the paperback edition, and go check it out. The link is in my description where you can buy my book. I'm just getting ready to put new covers on it because I have put new covers on it periodically since I released it 8 years ago. It was 8 years ago, February 13th of this year. So I tend to update every year during the anniversary. So go check out the new covers in the link in the description. And also there's my merchandise. There is my Patreon and stuff. So check all that stuff out. But what you really want to check out this week is our Rocky Talkie. Because it's going to get a little bit off the beaten path from rock and roll into the strip club world. Because we are going to talk about my weirdest customers as a stripper. That's right, folks. Tune in, because is it going to be as wild as you think it is? I don't know, maybe. And I'm just going to be drinking the rest of my dragon's milk. I was filming already, and this is a very high percentage, 11%. So we're going to finish with my dragon's milk. So everybody, grab your dragons, kick up your feet. Let's have a Rocky Talkie, shall we? Cheers, big ears. Oh, yummy. I love this stuff. Now, these guys are New Holland out of Michigan. So they should be available in your area. They're available all over the U.S. I love them. They're a bourbon-soaked stout. So delicious. So, okay. We're going to be talking about my weirdest customers as a stripper. That's right. And, you know, a lot of people would think that there's really, really weird men, that's all strippers see. Actually, that's not true at all. 98% of our customers are just normal men. And I'm not a stripper anymore. I have not been a stripper since 2003. After John died, I quit. But I still had some contracts and stuff to live up to, so currently not a stripper. Haven't been for a long, long time. So anyway, yeah, so when I very first started out stripping, we didn't do lap dances in Salt Lake City. They are illegal. You cannot get a lap dance in Salt Lake City at the time. So we had these booths where there was glass between you and you just did a private dance for the guy. And there was one guy that came into the American Bush, the original strip club here in Salt Lake City that I started at. He would go by the name Dr. Carl Carmack. This guy was no doctor in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't be surprised if the trunk of his car had seen a body or two. Oh, he was creepy as hell. Creepy as hell. And you know, that's what makes most customers weird, is the vibe and not what they want from you. Because like I said, 98% of customers that come into strip clubs are there just to get attention, affection, a fantasy. They're not there to live some sort of freaky deaky obsession. It's just not what strip clubs are. You know, they're their bachelor parties, birthday parties, bachelorette parties, whatever, you know. So it's kind of, I kind of struggled to find the ones that I thought were really, really weird, and one in particular, but we'll get to that one. So Dr. Carl Carmack used to come in, and he would just go up against the wall because you couldn't drop your pants. And he would go up against the glass wall, and you could hear him talk. You know, there was and there were two-way mirrors, there were cameras, there was everything. We even had vice cops that would come in and check our sessions, as we called them. Because like I said, we couldn't do lap dances. There was 4 feet between the stage and the crowd. So when we got off the stage, they couldn't put money on the stage. We would go from table to table, collect our tips, go on. Guy would be like, oh, I want a private dance with her. I want a private session. So Dr. Carl Carmack would come in, and he would like want you to talk about, do you remember when I met your mother? And we were at that Thanksgiving dinner, and he would just like rub up against the thing, and he wouldn't he would stand in some of the most uncomfortable, with like a leg over his arm on one leg, rubbing up against, and that to me, and this is the mildest of the weird. So, okay, this doesn't sound so weird. Some guy dry humping the glass wall with a naked girl on the other side of it. Okay, that could be quite normal. But it was, like I said, it was just his attitude. He would go from me, who with the dark hair, small breasts, to Chelsea, who was that gorgeous blonde with the almond eyes and natural double D breasts, tiny little waist, perfect body, you know. So he kind of had this extreme. Now, what made him weird was this necklace, not necklace, but there was always a chain around his neck. And one of the reasons he would stand with his leg over, and it was kind of like how this is going down, but it would go all the way down. You could just see it under his shirt collar. And I guess it was attached to a ringy-dingy for his thingy-dingy. And it had little spikes on it. He wanted to show me, because I was like, what is this anyway? You know, what is this? I always see you wearing this. Is that I was thinking it was like a medical device or something. Oh, no. So when he would stand with his leg literally over his arm, just trying to rub up and do that, it was because he was pulling and stabbing his thingy thing. I'm sorry. Okay, to each their own. But that to me was like, oh, God. And then there was a big-time senator from here in Utah who used to have me spank him. He just retired a couple years ago, so look that one up. He was one of the weirdest ones because he's a hypocritical son of a bitch. And I enjoyed spanking the hell out of that one every time he came to Utah because he's from D.C. And like I say, he's one of the biggest pieces of shits up on Capitol Hill in D.C. But he would have me spank him with his own belt, and I would send him back to D.C. with welts. Loved it. And then a couple years later, we were standing on the same receiving line for President Bush Sr. when he was campaigning against Clinton. I voted for Clinton, but family knows the Bushes, whatever. So, yeah, and that was kind of, he freaked out because I was like, see you tonight. Sure I did. So he was weird to me because that was the first guy that I ever, one of the few guys, because I'm not into, and you know, guys into BDSM can tell that I'm not into that. I don't like whipping or hurting people, so, but I did enjoy that one. All right, so then we're going to move a little bit further into my Seattle years, where I had Wendell, who had a foot fetish, and he was my first foot fetish guy, which there's nothing wrong about a foot fetish. I'm all about it, you know, because all that guy did was pay me to sit there and rub my feet and tuck my toes and just love my foot. Nothing weird about getting paid for that. But that was my first foot fetish, and it was kind of strange to me at first, but excuse me, I'm burping. Beer. So, but he's still not the strangest. We're getting there. So he would rub my feet, and another customer I had in Seattle was a man, and I had two guys like this. The first guy who I did this for was paraplegic, and he could not feel anything from the waist down. So he didn't get the adult feelings like we all get. And no little pill or implant or anything could help him. So what he would have me do is walk on his chest without my heels. And it would create that same sensation, which wasn't necessarily weird, but for me, it was like, I was so scared of hurting him. Because he's like, no, let your full weight. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I wanted to be gentle with him because obviously, you know, he was a little bit more fragile. And it just scared the hell out of me every time I did a dance for him. Just kind of, and he would have me just kind of with my feet bounce on his chest towards the, okay. But again, not strange because it makes sense. But the strange one was years later in Vegas, I would have a guy that would get a bed dance, and he would always come in. He would always come in to get the bed dance, but he wanted me to walk on him with my heels. And not just walk, not just twist and shout, but jump and run and walk. And like, he wanted me to hurt him. And the first time, because at Little D's and Showgirls in Las Vegas, there's dance booths. So everything's separated. You can't see anything that's going on in the next booth. So all my coworkers heard me say, they just see me jumping up and down, twisting and shouting, running back and forth. They hear my little feet running back and forth and screaming, "This is better than a ride at Disneyland." Because, you know, as a stripper, sometimes you need to get your frustrations out. And boy, this guy paid me to get my frustrations out from head to toe. Although I told him I will not go from here up because this was just too dangerous. So, yeah, there's another one that liked me just to stomp on him with my heels. Yeah. Oh, who else did I have? Jack Nicholson was another foot fetish. Like I said, I didn't have a ton of guys who wanted strange things, you know. They just all want attention and affection. But there was this one night in Alaska. I was living in Seattle. It was right before I went down to Las Vegas. And I was up in Alaska for a 3-month stint. And the VIP room was $1,500 an hour. No sex, no drugs, lots of rock and roll. So the guy's paying me $1,500 an hour. He gets the VIP room for 3 hours. $4,500. I'm paying $200 each hour to the club. You do the math. So I'm like, cool, I'm making around $4,000 at that moment in time. And, you know, he's just a normal guy. It seems like he likes it when I'm giving him a dance and just paying attention to him and giving him a shoulder rub. And he's playing with my feet and rubbing those. And I'm like, cool. He's just a normal guy. Take a drink now, folks, because you're not going to want to in a few minutes. A few seconds. So I'm giving him a lap dance. I'm standing above him, you know, doing a looky-loo. And he's like, I need to ask you something. So I said, okay. He's like, I really want you to do something for me. What's that? Thinking I'm going to hear the you know, how much, no price, because that's not happening. I don't do that stuff. Proven it legally. So Mr. Alaska turns to me, and there's a bouncer, this big guy bull, who used to be in the military. He was a former Marine, and he was our club bouncer. And he was just awesome. I loved Bull. He had the greatest sense of humor. Not tonight, though. Because the customer, he's like, come and see. He's like, I just have this fetish. He's like, and I really want you to, if you can, go in my mouth to the restroom. In my mouth while you are dancing on my face. Take a drink now, because the rest of the story, you're not going to want to have a drink of anything. So I was like, what? I'm like, no. He's like, no, I will pay you an extra $2,000. Which he paid up, he had already paid up front for the VIP room because I made my customers pay up front. So I know he had the money. This was not a situation I was going to be ripped. I was like, so honestly, I had to sit back and think about that for a second. There was not a definite no. I was like, another $2,000 to pee on you? Huh. So I accepted the challenge. However, I physically could not bring myself to do it while I was giving him a dance. Physically couldn't do it. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, you don't have to pay me. He's like, no. He's like, I have another idea. Takes his coffee cup, dumps it out, says, go rinse this out, go in the bathroom, and bring it back. So, the VIP room is right here, the front door is right here, the ladies and the boys' bathroom are right over here. Bull's right there. I come out of the VIP room, Bull's like, where you headed? I'm like, to the ladies' room, and he sees me swinging the coffee cup. He's like, do you want me to take that for you? No. He's like, what are you doing? Because Bull's not stupid. He's worked in this strip club for a long time. Yeah, I did this. So I come out of the bathroom with my cup. No sudden movements. No sudden movements. Just no sudden movements. No sudden movements were made, and Bull's like, what the fuck is in that coffee cup, Sienna? Because that was my old stage name, Sienna. Sienna Jones. Long before I met Steve Jones, I was going by Sienna Jones. But, so he was like, what the fuck is in that coffee cup? I'm like, don't ask me. Don't question me, Bull. And he was like, no. Because he knew me. For a stripper, I'm conservative. I know what I'm selling. I know what line I don't cross. So for him to be seeing me doing something like this, yeah, and he's like, oh, girl, oh, no. He's like, I don't want nothing to do with that cup. I'm like, just back away from the cup then. And he's like, Jesus. So I go in, and he's like, I've got to excuse myself from this door for a minute, because he was doing exactly what I was doing. Gagging. Because I take this cup in there, and I give it back to the guy. His coffee cup. Just some plain old brown coffee cup that I give back to the guy. Swallows it down. Like, I don't even know what that was like, because I've never seen anything like it. And that's not the weirdest part. The weirdest part is he stopped and he was like, oh, you're a vegetarian? And at the time I was a strict vegetarian. And I was just like, you're a fucking connoisseur? What? Yeah. Nothing wrong with fetishes, but this just was not mine. At all. I wanted nothing to do with this fetish. But for $2,000 extra, I walked home with, after he paid me and everything, he gave me another $1,000 on top of that $2,000. So I walked out of there with what, 4 plus 3, 7,000 after tipping everybody out. I walked out of there with, yeah, like $6,500. And, you know, learned a new fetish that I didn't like. So I guess it was a valuable lesson at least. And it was, but yeah, that is my strangest customer. See why the rest of them, I just rushed through them? Because they all pale in comparison to this guy. Like I said, that's a handful. Out of 13 years of dancing, these are the only guys that were the, like, weirdos, and most of them aren't that weird. They're just normal, like certain things, guys. But yeah, so when you're at strip clubs, don't drink out of the coffee cup. Don't drink out of the coffee cups. It's my advice for you today. So there you guys go. There's my weirdest customers as a stripper. And my stuffy nose. Sorry, you guys. It has been so horrible this past winter with all the inversion. And my voice is just horrible. I cannot wait for spring when I can talk. So, alright, guys. There's my weird-ass customers. Sorry for the whole coffee cup thing. Like I said, you guys will never think of a Denny's coffee cup. You guys will never look at Denny's coffee cups again, and you'll never be at a strip club and drink out of their glassware, will ya? All right, so if you like me after that, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit my bells, and we'll see you on Sunday for some more cocktails and rocktails. Cheers, big ears!